We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Cero. Miedo.
Let's get ready to podcast. Welcome back, All Elite family, to episode 31 of the All Elite Podcast, the special post All Out edition of the podcast. And for the special edition, we have none other than our boy, the not bitter Mark, but pessimistic Philip Domino. How's it going, Phil?
Things are going okay. Life is basically just work and watching TV.
And of course, you have your Cero Miedo host here, All Elite Andy, and we are ready to start the podcast off. The first thing I obviously have to talk about was being a part of Starrcast, and that whole event this week was super awesome. It was fun to be around everybody and just see all of the cool merch stands and meet and greets, and then the stage shows and all of that stuff. All that whole setup was really interesting and really fun to just see and be a part of. Overall, it was just really exciting. There was a lot of cool spots to buy merch, purchase merch. There was a lot of interesting stage shows. There was the video game competition, all of that shit. And then just outside the venue, we had ODB selling food at her meet and greet meat truck. So that was pretty interesting. Like, it was just cool to see all the wrestlers coming and going and all of that shit. So that was really interesting. And so, Phil, did you happen to catch any of the Starrcast 3 videos, maybe the CM Punk stage show or anything like that?
I saw some stuff with Leva Bates playing video games. I didn't know about the ODB food truck, but that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it was just neat and she was out there at like 2 o'clock in the morning after the Janela after party and everything, so she was out there making money, really, if anything, but it was just a neat experience. Like, the second we walked in, that was the first thing I saw was ODB at this meet and greet meat truck, and I was like, holy shit, this is cool. And then obviously the CM Punk stage show, that was really interesting. There was a couple neat tidbits coming out of that, but I don't think there was really anything that blew me away or made me think that Punk was going to show up, and then obviously he didn't. So, I mean, if you watched the Punk stage show and you still thought he was going to show up, that's on you for thinking that. But otherwise, it was a cool little event. It was nice to meet all the wrestlers and all that shit. Everybody was super humble. There was only one wrestler, I guess, that there was like a weird interaction where I guess like after everyone was so cool and so, like, obviously if you're watching the video version or you're listening, you heard the Phoenix and Pentagon intro. A lot of wrestlers were really open to doing that except for one, and so it was just funny to see the one who did that and all that. But otherwise, it was a really great event and fun, interesting time. But let's jump right in.
People who didn't
no, I'm not gonna do all that. But it is funny just that there was one individual who was like, "Nah, you're gonna have to talk to my manager if you want me to do any of that," and I was just like. At first, I thought they were fucking around because I had fallen for that so many times with like 3 or 4 wrestlers throughout the weekend that were like, "Nah, man, I can't do it." And then 2 seconds later, they were like, "Haha, just fucking with you." And like, she just was like, "Nah, you gotta talk to me." I was like, "Okay, cool."
Oh, you revealed the gender of the performer.
Yeah, you got me to do that much, but yeah, otherwise, and I wasn't mad about it. It was just like, okay. I think I was more so just because so many wrestlers had been so humble and cool about it beforehand. I think if I had gotten that response more, it would have been just like understandable. But because literally no one else did that, I was like, all right, whatever.
I have a theory about that.
What's the theory?
Why that happened?
What is it?
Well, they were a big star, and you know they were there for a long time, and a big national exposure. So, you know,
that's what I was thinking a little bit myself, but
stuff like that, man, like they could go to a shitty West Virginia gymnasium and people would pay $20 to take a picture with them.
Well, I think, and that was kind of the funny thing was there was really no line or anything to meet this person, so it was just like, okay, cool, see you later. It's not that big of a deal.
So yeah, what happens after you're denied something like that? You literally were just like, okay. Like,
yeah.
See you later.
I was just like, all right, cool. See ya. Like, all right, I was just like, sure, sounds good. Because I literally stood there like almost in like I was like, ha, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm a fucking doofus. She's serious. Let me get out of here. So that was pretty much it. But It was literally right after getting a couple of them from people that I didn't really expect to at all. Like, well, I guess I'm not gonna give them away. We'll release them as the weeks go by. But it was just like a couple of people who I didn't even expect to say yes did. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever, and I just moved on with my day. But moving on in general, let's talk about some AEW news before we talk about All Out and break down our thoughts on the show in general. They announced Full Gear. That's the next AEW pay-per-view. That's going to be on November 9th. What do you think about this? I mean, a lot of people were speculating that the name was going to give away who won the championship, and obviously that wasn't the case. So
I don't really know how to feel about the title of the show. It doesn't really do anything for me. I guess it's cool because it's like part of the identity of one of the top stars, but it makes me feel like Adam Page is gonna have a big part in it, like usual. Yeah, doesn't really do much for me. It's not really like a cool one. It's not really anything that's gonna like stand out to me. But
yeah, I guess it's just nice to sort of know, I guess, the schedule or the plan of events as to where they're gonna go with TV into pay-per-view. So it's cool to know.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have the first show in early October, and then the first pay-per-view will come in early November, and we'll sort of see where they go from there. But otherwise, I think it's weird that they were tipping their hat to the idea that it's going to be almost like you have to imagine that Adam Page is going to be one of the main characters in this. Like, and it's weird too because they're like it's Full Gear as in a gear in like a machine or something, as opposed to Full Gear as in the which it looks way better as a logo and stuff. So I'm not saying they should have went Full Gear, but it's just weird how they transitioned the meaning but utilized the same topic or whatever. But I don't know. I'm just excited that they have another pay-per-view lined up. People in Baltimore will have the opportunity to go and check that out, so that'll be awesome for them. In other AEW news, it is interesting to note that All Out, despite it being a really popular pay-per-view for fans, it didn't really crack the top 20 in the Google Trends. I'm not sure if it made its way into like the top 25 or top 50. I didn't look that far into it, but that was something that was really touted about AEW coming out of Double or Nothing, was just how searched it was and how popular it was within the mainstream audience, and that people were really looking to get into it. And it just doesn't seem to be the same coming off of this pay-per-view, and I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, if you think like maybe that's a bad sign. I don't think it's too negative, but it's a little bit of a bummer, I guess.
Yeah, the question here is, does this matter at all? I don't think in the long term it matters much, because I feel like things will be different once there's a consistent national presence on television. But it's not a good sign. Like, it feels like we're kind of losing momentum a little bit here as things go on, which isn't obviously it's not a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how I feel about it too. It's like a lot of lost momentum. It was almost unexpected that they would end up in the top few slots when they did with Double or Nothing. So for this to not really even crack within the top 20, it's like, that sucks.
I feel like the loss of Moxley really impacts it, because that's somebody that like your transitional casual fan is gonna watch for. Maybe they skip it, the live event, because watching it live because he's not on there. Like, maybe that's what they're looking forward to, and now they're like, oh, I'll just catch the replay.
Yeah, and that was something, and it took away from just the overall feel of the excitement within the show, because while Kenny versus Pac was still a good match, the idea that Pac was available so quickly tells you that they were going to probably utilize Pac for the show in general. And if you have Pac come out and beat down Adam Page to close out the show after losing the championship match to sort of continue that feud, but have that surprise of, oh shit, now Pac's here again, and you get that surprise and you still get the Moxley Omega match, you have so much more excitement throughout the show, whereas instead you got Omega versus Pac, which was a really great match, but it wasn't the best match because they weren't going out there to have the best match on the show. They wanted to leave that for somebody else, and it was a good match, but it just didn't really deliver too much in the whole excitement of the show in general, I guess. And it took away that potential moment of wherever they planned to use Pac. It would have been more beneficial than what they ended up having to do.
Totally agree.
And then just in our last bit of AEW news, Tony Khan did announce through the post-show media scrum that Kylie Rae had requested her release and been granted it, apparently due to an injury. So that's really disappointing. Kylie Rae was someone that people had a lot of hope for, thinking that this was going to be AEW's way to show WWE how to do Bayley right, or the Bayley character right. But instead, we don't get that at all, and that's really unfortunate. And it was something that I had noticed, like, there was no Kylie Rae's presence at all within Starrcast or anything, so I was like, is she really not going to show up? And this sort of answered those questions.
I think the whole situation is weird. There's not really a lot of definitive news about what's going on here. No official word from her or, like, anything other than this brief excerpt from Tony Khan, so...
Which was weird, like, just like the way he was like, yep, she called and asked for a release, so I gave it to her, and it was all amicable.
When they first announced that it was a medical issue, the first thing I thought of was a pregnancy, because it's not something that they, like, revealed, like, you know, somebody, like, separates their shoulder or something.
Yeah, they were really secretive about it.
Yeah, and, like, obviously that would have bad repercussions, because, like, she's performing while unknowingly being pregnant. So that was my assumption, which was wrong. But the whole weirdness of it all, I didn't expect it to be something so severe, like career ending.
Yeah, and talk about just disappointing in general. I mean, if you look at the grand scheme of sports and you look at the big news in sports today is that Andrew Luck had to retire early in football, and this is obviously a much smaller scale, but just seeing an athlete having to quit whatever their craft is at an early time and hang up their boots or hang up whatever. Like, Kylie Rae isn't alone in this. Casey Catanzaro also had to retire from WWE like the next day, almost essentially due to the same injury reason. So it's so disappointing to see, and you have to feel for someone in that position where they have come so far and worked so hard to get to that point, and then they're denied their opportunity just because of an injury that had happened. So it's really disappointing. Obviously, your heart and your prayers go out to someone like Kylie Rae who has to deal with something like that. Like, that sucks. That's really unfortunate, and it's disappointing, obviously, for AEW, but for her as a person too, it just sucks.
I think it's kind of odd too that they didn't even, like, attempt to make her, like, an on-screen presence anyways. Like, it kind of like, well, that sucks, let's do something for you for a while and see if it works. Like, when Edge had to retire, he kind of, like, did other things. He was still an on-screen character.
And she would have made, like, there aren't a lot of face managers, but she would have made an interesting, like, face manager for maybe an upcoming tag team or something that needed a focal point that the fans could really grasp onto. So it's interesting to see that wasn't really an opportunity or something that they had discussed with her, but hopefully she has something else lined up that she can do in the future, and this wasn't her only plan or whatever. But either way, it sucks regardless. But let's jump right into all
best friends.
What? Yeah, put her with the best friends. Yeah, she could have. That would actually have been really, like, an awesome idea if you think about it. I guess it just sort of. You have to think about from her perspective, being an athlete, do you want to be around the profession that you can't really be involved in? So, but when you mentioned that idea, just an idea like that is so perfect. So, But let's jump right into All Out. The buy-in pre-show started with the Casino Battle Royale once again. Fans weren't really loving the Casino Battle Royale. I know AJ had talked to me about it in the Discord. He had said that he wasn't really a fan of the Casino Battle Royale. They had 2 chances to get it, and it just the way it's set up is really strange, and it doesn't really work. What did you think of the Battle Royale? Did you enjoy it? Did you agree with AJ?
Well, in your notes here, your description of the Battle Royale was not bad. And I was waiting for you to say that so I could cut you off and tell you that it was bad. I don't like the format. Not a lot of people that
I was there live, bro. Nothing's going to feel bad live.
Nobody I've seen likes it that much. I hate how everybody comes out at once like geeks. There's no.
It was an interesting concept that you wanted to see, but when it's actually acted out, you're like, this is terrible. They're all coming out to a horrible theme song. Like, whatever song they pick for this shit is god awful.
It is so bad. The entrances are so bad for this.
I would rather have been like, all right, let's play one female's theme and make everyone else look like the job, or play like them in succession. Like, you have a minute and a half or whatever to utilize anyway. Let them come out like 10 seconds at a time or whatever, you know?
You know what the problem is? When you have these surprise entrants come out, and they just come out like a normal person with everybody else, it kind of takes away from that moment. That, like,
Yeah, they
oh,
have
shit,
to try and
it's
stand out
ODB.
by like jumping around and being like, oh shit, but you're just like, oh, I don't even, like, in a lot of cases, you're like, I don't even know if you're supposed to be a big surprise because you're in with these 5 other people. Like, did they announce it and I didn't know?
Yeah, there's some names here that other people know that I have no idea who they are, and I didn't really learn anything about them because you don't have that individuality.
Yeah, and that was a difficult point. Like,
this.
someone like Priscilla Kelly, she sort of stood out, and if you know who she is and you've seen her work before, you were able to catch that. But if you're a casual fan and someone who doesn't really know, that's where it becomes a lot more difficult bringing in 5 people all at once, whereas if she had gotten a one-on-one opportunity in the very beginning or something like that, you get more of an opportunity to shine. But bringing in so many people at once where you're guaranteed to have 5 people at a time until the very end, basically, it's really difficult. The reason that I did think it wasn't that bad of a match, because they did progress on some established feuds. They were able to continue the Brandy and Allie thing, and they obviously continued the Bea Priestley and Britt Baker thing. Bea and Britt ended up being 2 of the final 4 in the match with Mercedes Martinez, who was the number 21 surprise, which if you know who she is and you've been following her career, I guess that was really exciting. I know who she is, but it really wasn't something that made me jump out of my seat or be super, like, stoked about it. And that's probably just my lack of, or my ignorance of the women's wrestling within the United States and stuff like that. But at the same, I just didn't know, and so I didn't care.
Yeah,
But
I
she
mean,
was-
like, if you're that transitional casual fan that they're trying to target that, like, has fallen out of love with the WWE product and they're looking for something, but you don't know anything about these people, it just kind of felt flat.
Well,
I'm
and
not
she was
really
good, but
familiar.
here's the
I'm not
problem
saying
with
she was
bringing in
bad.
some of these women is, like, well, not even women, just some of the independent wrestlers in general that they bring in. They don't have their own, like, they have their own outfit and stuff. So they're just, the presence of them looks more independent than it does professional. And that's not really like to dig on how they look or anything. It's just like the clothing that they have isn't professionally done. So you can tell it's like more of an independent feel to someone, and you're like, I don't really care.
Yeah, they didn't have, well, never mind. What was I going to say?
Well, it just wasn't the best showing for all of the women involved either. They had a lot of interesting debuts. Obviously, Mercedes Martinez was a popular one if you paid attention and you know who she is. Priscilla Kelly was someone that I was really excited about, her relationship with Darby Allin and all of that. That was something that was expected. Sadie Gibbs also made her debut in this match, and she looked really not good. So that was something that was difficult. And there have been rumors on the internet that she and Bea Priestley actually had an altercation after this match, just because they have a prior issue together. If you remember, we talked about this a long time ago when we talked about Sadie Gibbs joining AEW. Bea Priestley and Will Ospreay are in a relationship together, and they were sort of shitting on Sadie Gibbs on the internet early on in 2019 or late 2018. And so this sort of came to a head in this match where Bea and Sadie Gibbs had a segment of a match together, and it just looked awful. Neither one of them were really cooperating. Neither one was selling. It was really bad. And so it made Sadie Gibbs look really bad in her debut. Sadie Gibbs was someone I was interested in with the promo videos and stuff, but when she made her debut, I was literally watching this match like, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And when I watched the replay on TV, I was like, oh, that's Sadie Gibbs. I was like, I didn't even freaking know, compared to all these women who, granted they were new to me, I was at least able to pick them out. So
I have literally no idea who Sadie Gibbs is.
yeah, so I mean, and that's the unfortunate part of a match like this. They did have ODB, who we had discussed earlier. She ended up showing up in this match. Jazz was in this match. She was someone they had already announced. Awesome Kong obviously showed up as well.
What
Nyla
about
Rose
Big
picks up the
Swole?
win. This was somewhat controversial on the internet, and all I really have to say about that is it's 2019. If you're someone who's going to get really worked up over that in a fake sport where there's a bunch of half-naked men beating each other up anyway, you're choosing the wrong sport to watch, and go watch something else.
Yo, and it's not even like she's bad or anything.
Nah,
Like,
she's good,
She has her moments where she's raw, but like,
but she's still
some
pretty
people
good,
thought
and
that-
it's
some
not
people
bad.
Thought the cartwheel double kick when
That was
she
rough.
was on the apron was
That was
bad,
rough.
But, yo, it was so surprising to me that I still was like, yo.
Even live, I was like, what? I was like, yo, but I was like, what? What are you, like, I knew, even from way back where I was on the opposite side of the ring and everything. I'm like, I don't think that hit. But otherwise, it was pretty cool. It was, and it's progressive, and that's what AEW is trying to be. That's something that they've announced, but it doesn't feel forced because Nyla Rose is literally being pushed as the native beast. She's someone who should go over in a match like this, and rather than her getting eliminated and falling to the wayside, they now have the opportunity to create that big star of someone who really is dominant within their women's division. So
sets up a pretty good match for the title because of the result later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, the establishing the feuds is good. I'm interested to see where Britt Baker and Bea Priestley goes. As for Brandy and Allie, I hope they drop it like they do with other things. I really don't need to see it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't focus on it too much, but they did make a mention of it and had those two sort of come to a head quickly. But yeah, I'm sort of with you. That's not something that I need to be a forced thing. If we're going to have if we're going to have Brandy Rhodes involved in feuds, we need to put her with someone who's really, really, really good. Like I'm saying, they need to bring in someone like Tessa Blanchard outside of AEW, because AEW or like some of the Joshi women or something like that who can really make her look good without her having to do much. Because putting her with someone like Allie, who's not a bad worker but isn't known for being a great worker, you're really putting Brandy in a tough position. And that's basically just my thought on that and why they don't really, like, and Brandy, she's just, her character isn't the best either. So it's like, I don't know. But then transitioning from that, the second match on the buy-in pre-show, we had Private Party versus Angelico and Jack Evans. Private Party ended up picking the win in this match. It was basically your traditional tag team flippy match, which it's interesting because in 2019 it just feels like another match, and that was sort of the weird part to me. Like, it was a really good match, it was really fun, it was exciting to see these two teams go at it, and it was a really good match. And they ended it with an interesting way to build to a feud with Jack Evans and Angelico beating down Private Party, but it wasn't even until that moment that I really gave a shit about any of this. And in rewatching it, I was able to see Evans and Angelico's like mannerisms and stuff, and for that, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But until then, I was just kind of like, this is just, it was a good match, but nothing too spectacular, I guess.
I really like Private Party. I think that they fit in well. They have a lot of potential. I agree with your note here. Isaiah Cassidy's squeal is the worst. I don't like it. It's not cool.
It's awful, man.
It's a very indie thing where you're just like, well, I don't care how this comes across because who's gonna fucking remember it? But
outside of that, they're super popular. And that's something AEW has apparently just struck gold with in their tag teams that they've brought in outside of the Dark Order. Everyone has gotten over like insane. So
yeah, what I said when I was watching it live was they did a really good job finding these guys, because when they were first announced, you're just like,
who are they? Yeah.
And then you come to find out that like they're actually pretty good.
That's why the squeal needs to go, though, because of the two, you can sort of feel like Isaiah Cassidy is sort of the lesser of the stars, and then he's the one doing the squeal. So it's just like, dude, you can't stand out and look bad when you already don't really stand out as much of a star compared to your partner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't too bad of a match, but nothing we really have to spend too much time on. Then they sort of continued the pre-show with a promo for Wardlow. He was someone that I thought they might get involved as like a henchman for Jericho, or maybe turn Adam Page heel and make him a henchman for them. But once you saw this promo, you obviously knew that idea was out the window. But it's interesting to see them try and build up this new really big dude. Someone that we saw previously, we talked about previously. He's just a big dude who does a lot of like shit that big dudes shouldn't be doing. So it'll be interesting to see how they debut him and how he looks.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about him. Like, when we saw him, we were really excited, and then nobody ever talked about it again for months until this promo.
And it was a pretty good promo. It wasn't too bad. It was interesting. It was well shot and all of that. So my only take about it that was where I didn't really like it was just like, in a lot of the moves and shit that, first of all, why are you doing these moves in a street fight? But second of all, when he's doing them, he's like falling back and almost feels like he's not hitting them perfectly, and like they could have just taken another shot and made it look more stiff and strong. But that's just me being nitpicky of it. Otherwise, it was an interesting promo and something that they're doing a good job at trying to create new stars, and I think that this will be a lot of the same. Once people see this big dude come out and do something like a standing shooting star press or whatever crazy shit he does, people are quickly going to take to that. So. And then the next segment on the pre-show, they had MJF doing a bit of an interview talking about why he didn't have a match or need a match on the show. Instead, he was going to be there by Cody's side throughout the entire show. So just sort of continuing that story and making people think almost that MJF was going to turn on Cody later on in the show. But it was a good promo. MJF continues to be one of the best promos in AEW, and I love MJF. He's continued to be someone that you love to hate, too, so it's perfect.
It was a good promo. I wish there was more of him on the show.
Well, and the thing about him is he's so, like, you love him because you have to appreciate his heel work, but he says shit that's so fucked up that you're like, boo. Like, even as someone who, you're like, yeah, I like this guy, but you're like, fuck you. So that's cool, and it's interesting to see. And then the introductory match on the card, we had Jurassic Express, which is Marco Stunt, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus taking on SCU. Jungle Boy is super over. The whole group of the three are super over, but Jungle Boy is someone that I've really taken notice that people, casual fans, and people who don't really watch wrestling are really going to take to someone like Jungle Boy. And it's interesting to see how quickly he and Marco Stunt have gotten over just because younger fans can be attracted to these younger superstars.
Yeah.
But it was a great match overall. SCU did a great job, and they continue to be like the opening aces for AEW. It's something that I've continued to push as like my little thing, but it's like literally they're on every opening match is someone in SCU. So
yeah, I really liked their intro when they came out to the Jurassic Park thing with the camera shaking and the cup of water is moving. When I saw that, I popped because I liked it so much. It was good.
And that's the thing, is this is such an over-the-top gimmick that it makes no sense. It shouldn't get over. But because all three characters are so, like, likable and so they just come off as so cool that it gets over. And you're just like, I don't know. I don't really get the story. I don't really understand it. Like, they're talking about how Marco Stunt was just getting bullied in the back. And Luchasaurus was like, fuck that. Join our group. And that's literally the story of why they're together. And it's just like, they don't even have to tell you too much for people to buy into this and be like, fuck it. I don't care. I love it. And that's the interesting part about wrestling is like gimmicks like this can get over. You just have to be willing to do it. But SCU picks up the victory. Something that me and AJ had discussed was supposed to, like, we thought it was going to go the other way. We thought Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus were two people that really needed a victory. They've sort of taken back-to-back losses now on both pay-per-views. And despite them being super popular, you can't continue to beat a team like that over and over. But that's where bringing someone like Marco in to the fold. He's someone that can take the loss for the team, and it doesn't look bad for anybody just because of how small he is.
Yeah, I feel like these two teams are so established that it doesn't really hurt one of them to lose because they're going to be just as popular the next show. Like, there are some people you can't do that with. These two teams aren't those people.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if AEW plans to introduce like something of a trios championship down the line just because of how many trios they've sort of started to put together as well as their tag teams. It's almost interesting to note that because if you're someone who's watched WWE for a long time, you're used to maybe one or two factions at a time, and we're already seeing quite a few develop within AEW, and that's really cool to me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time a company had a trios championship, and usually those matches are pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a way to introduce or have a lot of superstars on the card without doing too much. And if they can establish it early on that it's an important thing and not just a throwaway thing as sort of Ring of Honor and New Japan sort of do with their six-man championships, if they sort of try and establish the six-man division as something that's important as well, that could be something that they do. But outside of that, I could also see them like have introduced Marco Stunt into this group just to pull Luchasaurus into more of a singles role. The way that Jim Ross kept talking about, well, if he was a singles, he'd be so good. I was like, it almost feels like that's the direction they're going, and that's why they paired Marco and Jungle Boy up. But
I don't think so, just because I don't really trust anything JR says right now.
That's fair, too.
He's still kind of transitioning into being an announcer again, so he does some stupid things.
Yeah, and this group is just so cool in general. I was able to do a meet and greet with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. They were two of the coolest dudes that I was able to talk to. And then at Joey Janela's after party, you see the interaction between Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt, and you could tell that these guys are all legitimate friends. So I think that's why it also gets over really well because you could it's not forced, it's not fake, it's pretty legit. And then in a match that sort of surprised me that it was on so early, as well as the result, of course, surprised everyone as well, I think. Kenny Omega versus Pac. An exceptional match, nothing really to write home about, I don't think, though, because it wasn't meant to be like a 5-star or 6-star or any crazy match, because I felt like they didn't want to take the shine off of the upper card. That's why they threw it on early. They also didn't have much of a build for it, so. But what did you think of the surprising, like Pac getting that KO victory, I guess, or submission victory, however you want to call it, was shocking to me in the crowd. I was like, holy shit, that really just happened.
I was surprised that that's what finished the match, because they both have such established finishers. The result also surprised me. I wonder if that's the direction they would have gone if Moxley had stayed in the match, because I just feel like Kenny is putting a lot of people over. He's only got one win, right?
Yep, over SEMA.
Yeah, and I mean, good match, but SEMA's not really established.
And then I guess they have that 6-man win. So and I guess that's the thing but his big matches, the matches that have been important, he hasn't won.
Lost.
Yeah, and that's the thing to take note of, and it's interesting, and it's cool that they're going to tell that story, though, and it's very easy to tell that story. He was more focused on Moxley. He wanted the Moxley match. This caught him off guard, and it's cool to see that Pac is obviously someone they plan on keeping involved. They sort of continued the Pac and Adam Page feud on social media after the show, so it's cool to see them be able to bring Pac into the fold. As I said, it was a great match, but I think it definitely hurt the card for them to have to pull Moxley out of this match and pull the Pac surprise away, because it hurt the card.
Just kind of felt like it was there in terms of card placement.
And that was, I get why they did it, and it was a really hot start to the show because you had so many good matches in a row to begin the show, but it was like, holy shit, Omega, I thought it was about to be like a hype video. When I'm sitting there live, I was like, oh, well, they're cool, they're going to do a hype video for this match. Nope, Omega's really on his way out to the ring. I was like, holy shit, this is early.
Look at the next 3 matches that come after that. Like, this easily could have gone in between any of these matches. Like, it was like the mid-show lull in matches like that were important because there were stakes, there were things at stake, but like it wasn't what you're buying the pay-per-view for.
Right. The next match ended up being Janela versus Darby versus Havoc. This match was another exciting match. These 3 all got an opportunity to really showcase themselves. As a fan, I'm sitting there thinking, like, holy shit, this is a hot card, a hot way to start the show. Like, just because I'm a big fan of all of the matches that have happened up to this point, but I'm like, holy shit, we're really just getting all of the best matches off one after another. But it was a good match. Jimmy Havoc ended up picking up the victory, pinning Joey Janela. That came as somewhat of a surprise to me, but they've done a good job now at establishing all 3 of these guys. I think they're trying to make a star or somewhat of a star out of each one, and they've done a good job at that so far.
Yeah, when I was in the chat room and Havoc got the victory, everybody's reaction was kind of like, why? And I was just like, dude needs a win.
Definitely.
Needs it badly.
Desperately needed the win. Like, and that's the thing. I was like, oh, I hate this, but I get it, and it works because if they're pushing wins as being important, Janela has, like, he hasn't really, I don't even know if he has an official win in AEW, but he's been in the main event in that match with Moxley. He's done so many things to become a popular star. So you can't take away from that. And I do think maybe he did win at Double or Nothing. So he is someone who has been able to stay popular despite all of his non-wins. But Jimmy Havoc is someone that we've discussed on this show multiple times as just being a guy who has needed a win for so long. And so it pays off for him. It works out. Darby couldn't really eat another pin after taking the pin at the last show in their 6-man match, so I'm not mad about it.
Can somebody please give Darby a win before he kills himself and goes the way of Kylie Rae?
Dude, and I love Darby too. He's someone that when I met him at the meet and greets, I was like, yo, you are way cooler than you come off on TV at all. Like, because, like, well, like,
his face?
No, I didn't say that to his face, but that is what I was thinking. Like, because he talks like a cool dude, and he's like, he's built in person. Like, you could tell he's like okay, like, but he's not jacked on TV or anything compared to other people. But you see him in person, and he's like well built, and like he's strong. He's a smaller dude, but he's like built. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, dude, you look way cooler than you do on TV with your skinny jean shorts and your spandex on. Like, Dude, and meeting Janela in person and seeing how short he was, that was like a fucking mind blower too. But like these guys, and that was the weird part, and I didn't notice how short Janela was until I had already left. That's the larger than life presence that some of these guys have. Is like, yeah, you're a smaller wrestler, but when I'm in your presence or whatever, I guess that wasn't the first thing I was thinking about. But a cool match overall, 3 cool guys, and all 3 guys who obviously have a bright future within AEW, and I'm really interested to see how each guy gets pushed, and this is a cool, like, the thing I like about the start of AEW right now is how they're putting in these little establishing feuds that you hope to see, like, be feuds for a long time down the road. Like, you could see a Darby Janela or a Darby Havoc feud going so long. You know what I mean? Like, or like going a couple months and something they can revisit again down the road, like 6 months from now, 1 year from now. So it's just cool to see them laying the groundwork and the footwork for a feud that you have to anticipate lasting a while with these guys, all 3 guys being the hardcore guys in AEW. Then the next match, a very confusing match if you want to know what it means. It's the tag team match with a bye in the first round. It's literally just a first round tag team match. We have the Best Friends versus the Dark Order. This match felt like a cool-down match, and it was almost my bathroom break match because I just really didn't care that much about the Dark Order. I had a good feeling they were going to win. They did end up winning, so I don't have a lot to say. The Dark Order, they're not that impressive, and you can feel it in the arena. You literally can feel like we just had 3 hot matches, and now it's the Dark Order. Damn. But they closed it out with the exciting addition of Orange Cassidy joining the Best Friends. The lights go out. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because as is noted on TV, the Dark Order, this is their gimmick to turn out the lights, so why are the lights coming out? I see someone actually run down to the ring. I thought it was just a fuck up. So when I see someone running down to the ring, I was like, holy shit, there's actually someone getting involved. Then they turn the lights on, and it's fucking Orange Cassidy. I'm like, you're not supposed to run like that at all, but all right. And then he does the dive with his hands in his pockets and all that to a huge pop. So it was cool. It was an interesting way for them to create another trio with an AEW. But, yeah, it was just another match. The match itself was just whatever. And it's weird, and I don't really want to see this feud continue because I like the Best Friends a lot more than the Dark Order, and don't like the Dark Order is a dark void of AEW, and whatever they pull into a feud with the Dark Order is just going to be like, ugh.
Yeah, they certainly do have that stigma about them. They have they're cool, like little groupies, and I mean that's cool.
Spooky perverts.
But yeah, you can really tell on television. Obviously, you could tell live.
Dude, and there's a lot of people who don't watch Being the Elite. Like, and obviously we know that, but sitting there in the crowd, I'm around a whole bunch of people who are like, why the fuck are people chanting spooky perverts at them? And I know, I've watched Being the Elite, but I'm like, holy shit, this explains a lot. Like, this is why people don't care about any of this. They don't know any of these people or, like, any of what's going on, especially not the Dark Order, and you really don't care because of how the Dark Order just comes off as so blah when they're live on TV.
That's why I disagreed whenever I heard anybody say TV isn't that important at this stage for AEW, and shit like that is why it is. Like, there's a lot of people who don't watch their online shit. Like, that's all their content basically right now, except for these pay-per-views. And I think that's a contributing factor to the lower, like, buzz, the fact that they don't show up in search trends like that, because, like, you have to go out of your way to get the content that you could just, like, otherwise get on television. It's just, like, shit like that. Like,
yeah, it's hard to access. You have to go out of your way to watch it, and if you're not really entertained by it one week, how are you going to come back the next week? Like, and that's sort of been the shitter for me. Is like, there's just some weeks I don't tune in because I haven't really cared too much. Like, they haven't done a lot to sell me. Now, this week's episode I watched, and it was a great episode, and I really enjoyed it. It was the backstage episode that they tend to do was awesome. But other than that, you know, it's hard to really enjoy some of the episodes. And when they do a lot of shit that you don't care for, you're easy to be like, that's 20 minutes of my day that I don't need to waste. So. And then the next match was Rio versus Hikaru Shida. This match obviously had championship implications. The winner of this match going on to the first show to get a shot at the women's championship. Rio picks up the victory over Hikaru Shida in a pretty interesting, good Joshi match, but it really didn't like steal the show the way some of the other Joshi matches have. So
Yeah, how was the crowd during this match live?
you definitely noticed that this was the match that the crowd treated as like, we're gonna go to the bathroom match, and that wasn't like it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't. No one was really shitting on it, but no one knew and no one cared, and they just went about their day. That's why I feel like matches like this need hype videos. Like that's why UFC does hype videos.
Not a lot of build for this one.
No build, like literally no promo, no nothing, no, and
like,
that's
the fact. The stakes is what they basically.
And we didn't know that the stakes were the stakes until I didn't know until they announced it right there. I was like, oh shit, this is like, I assumed, but they didn't announce it on social media or anything before, so.
Yeah, it was weird.
But it was an alright match. Rio wins. They have Nyla Rose come out, do a quick little stare down, and set up that match for the first ever women's championship. So that's cool.
Yep, and they faced in the ring in that triple threat, so it's interesting to see how it's gonna go now that they have like a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah. And then in a match that AEW has promoted super heavily, we have Cody Rhodes versus Shawn Spears. Both guys get somewhat of a big entrance. Not over the top, but just a lot of attention put on both of them. They put on a pretty good match, a lot of run-ins and stuff like that. MJF getting involved, Tully Blanchard getting involved, even Arn Anderson getting involved, coming out hitting a spinebuster on Shawn Spears, which the crowd blew up for. It was an awesome moment. Cody Rhodes picks up the victory over Shawn Spears. Post-match, people are waiting on MJF to turn on Cody. Obviously, that doesn't happen. They hug it out. They teased it a little bit, but it wasn't something that went down, so it's still something that they leave in the bag to do in the future, and it feels inevitable. It feels like it has to happen, but they could do it a year from now, and it'll still be crazy. So
I'm pretty sure that they're aware of, like, how seasoned the fans are, so, like, you know your audience, and you, like, plant those seeds, and you, like, anticipate how the audience is going to react and like the things they're going to think are going to happen, so you like go the other way. It's like how good TV shows usually do things.
And it's not like a super swerve like in WWE, you know what I mean? Like, so, and that's where I'm cool with it. So far, they've just teased it a little bit. They hint at it, and they're like, nope. And it's the perfect character to do it with in MJF and Cody. And like, if it's WWE, if they want to do something you don't expect, they'd have Cody beat down MJF for no reason to close out the match. You know what I mean? Like, so it all worked out. Obviously, I mean, I feel like we have to note the fact that the whole internet was blowing up at Cody over bringing his dog out and the pyro going off. That was a shitty moment, a shitty thing to do. Obviously, they should be more aware and intelligent about that. Cody said it wasn't supposed to happen, but you just can't even let it be a possibility. So when you're involving animals and shit like that, but
yeah, bringing out the dog was weird to me. I kind of gotten used to it by now.
You can just use the dog symbolism on the Tron and stuff, dude. He doesn't have to come out. Like, dogs don't want to be in front of 10,000 people.
His ass beat, and then we go to the Titantron and Pharaoh's there whimpering. That's what you mean?
No. I'm just saying they could have him like they've had enough tape, they can use it on the entrance video and call it a day. But
okay, so I had a problem with this match. Surprise. I didn't really care about this match. I know AJ loves Shawn Spears. I don't see it. I don't get it. And apparently neither does AEW because
yeah, dude, I feel like
you got beat, so the feud is over. There's no like beat down afterwards.
Nope,
so
nothing.
Whatever about this match. It had a ton of run-ins. It was so overbooked.
Yeah.
That,
I can't disagree with you there. Again, this is another match that probably just from being there live, I benefited from that factor. The crowd was hot for it. The crowd was into it. But outside of that,
the Arn Anderson thing, probably a cool moment live.
It was cool, but it's fucking stupid when you think about
like
why.
Behind it? Yeah. Why was Arn there? Like, he's holding some grudge from 30 years ago back in WCW, like
with Tully and taking it out on Spears. Yeah, I was kind of like, what the fuck is this? But whatever.
Also, Cody's a cheater, and he broke the contract negotiation where they said that you'd only have one person with you, and he's got fucking Arn Anderson running
just
down
hiding.
there.
Yeah, dude, that was planned from the beginning.
I fully anticipate that Tully Blanchard is gonna point that out. They're gonna have.
They're gonna do a tag team match,
and
dude.
Shawn
Tully
Spears
and
is gonna
Spears
get
versus
beat like a
Cody
loser
and Arn,
again.
and then Spears will get the pin on Arn. But Yeah, I don't know. It was
feuds that never
this is a
seem to
feud
die.
that it's weird because you do feel like the feud has to be over now. So I'm interested to see how they plan on continuing it, if they do plan on continuing it. Because like now we're building to a TV show which is supposed to build to a pay-per-view. So how it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
But hopefully we got some closure in the next feud. The next match was the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. This was a really exciting, over-the-top. You either loved it or you hated it, depending on how you feel about match types like this. But I didn't. I loved it. Being there live, it was fucking sick. It was nuts. It was crazy. The Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers gave it everything they had. And then they closed it out with an awesome moment of LAX joining AEW and beating down both teams and sort of making their presence known. And if this now becomes like a trios feud. But here's the thing. Is I wished that they would have just been like, oh, we've got another tag team to involve in this triple threat into this ladder match, and now it's a triple threat. And then they brought out LAX and just had a triple threat ladder match, because I think that would have been an insane, because that's a great triple threat ladder match, and now you don't want to do that. You have to wait a year or whatever before you can do that, whereas they could have had the opportunity to do it now.
I agree. Fun match. A lot of shit happened.
People almost died.
If you're like a wrestling purist,
you hated
this match.
Yeah.
You hated how choreographed some of the shit was.
Dude, that was something that I wasn't really thinking of it like that, but there was a guy sitting beside me who was like, "This is all so choreographed," and I was like, "You're not wrong."
Yep. But you could say that about any match. It's just a little more obvious in this one.
Cool ass beatdown though with LAX, and then they unmasked themselves. It was cool.
Yeah,
it was,
cool.
And I had seen a lot of LAX that weekend. They showed up at AAW's Jim Lyman Memorial Tournament, taking on the Lucha Brothers in a match there that I thought was sick. So just being able to see LAX get involved with these two teams is going to be cool going down the road.
Is Conan still involved with LAX?
I don't know, but AEW has the most insane tag team division in any time of wrestling that I can think of. They have an established upper card of tag teams, and then an established main event tag. There's literally divisions, not just this is our top
tiers.
2 teams, and then we have a bottom fucking shitter tire on the bottom. That's it. There's tiers to this, and you can see it building. And I'm excited for the tournament now just because of this. So, but it's gonna suck because the fucking Dark Order is gonna win it all, and it's gonna be all for nothing. But
I don't think that will happen.
We'll see. But, Young Bucks, they can finally stop utilizing the AAA tag team titles, too.
Yeah.
That needs to stop. Me and AJ have discussed that for weeks now. It's been really hard as a fan to care about the AEW tag team championships when this is the tag team championships that you're promoting so heavily.
It's kind of like a placeholder, like a UFC interim belt.
Yep, but as a Hispanic fan, this is awesome, seeing LAX and the Lucha Brothers involved, and that's cool for diversity, too, so...
If people are going to be hating on the Dark Order like this, I'm going to start to unironically like them.
Yeah, oh no. I could see it. That's
with, Elias before he became good. It happened with Baron Corbin.
Damn, so that's your team now? The Dark Order?
Maybe, man. I'm going to have to see the bracket and see who's actually in this thing.
Yeah, right. But let's talk about the main event for the AEW Championship. We had Hangman Page actually come out on a fucking horse, which was a surprise to me because he literally said in an interview that Tony Khan told him it wasn't a possibility, but they apparently got it approved and made it happen. An interesting match, again, nothing it wasn't like a 5-star match. It wasn't anything great. Jericho did a good job. Page did a good job. This was really late in the day, too. Something they need to take into consideration, having Starrcast and everything before and all of these events afterwards, is it really puts a drain on you as a fan. I had, you're up early, you go to the Mick Foley stage show, so that way you can get good seats to the CM Punk stage show. Well, then the CM Punk stage show finishes at 2, and you got to get to the Sears Center by 5, so you only have so much time to go eat and then come back and then catch a ride to the Sears Center. And then you're at the Sears Center, and you go through the whole show, and then you're waiting for that and Page match, and then they run way longer than they said they were gonna. The show's supposed to be over by 10, and you knew it wasn't gonna be over by 10, but they're running so long. And if you're planning on going to the Janela after party after the show, you're like, holy shit, how long is this show gonna go for? This after party's only until 1:30. This is my thought process as a fan. And so you're watching the main event, but you don't really care as much anymore, and you've been drained out as a fan. You've seen the big ass tag team match just before and everything, so you're not too focused on this match, and that's sort of where I was with it. I was excited to see it. I was hoping that Adam Page, like at this point in my weekend, I was so in on Adam Page that I wanted him to win, but I still wasn't anticipating it. And so when he didn't win, I wasn't shocked. I also wasn't shocked when CM Punk didn't show up at the end of the show. So.
Oh, if you think CM Punk is ever coming back, you're a fucking geek. Seriously. Do I seriously have to talk about this every single podcast that I'm on? That some fucking crybaby out there thinks...
Dude, and there's a lot of people mad about that coming off of this show. That's why I bring it up.
People were mad? They seriously expected him to come?
It's Chicago, because it was in Chicago.
Every time
because he did
somebody
Starrcast.
runs in Chicago, they're going to be like, oh, CM Punk's going to be there.
I saw people tweeting saying, oh, it makes sense that they didn't do it on pay-per-view. They're going to save it for the TV in Chicago in November.
Shut up. Just shut up. Every single time he doesn't come out, people find a reason that next time is going to be the time. Enough.
Yep.
Get over it.
Enough is enough. Jericho's the first AEW champion. It makes the most sense from just the standpoint of promoting your company and promoting AEW. It's a lot easier, I think, to expect fans to be on social media and share, oh, Chris Jericho's the first AEW champion, and other people can see that, former fans can see that and be like, oh, I know who Jericho is. This is cool that he's the champion there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're sharing Adam Page being the champion, people just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some people who who think that Adam Page is on the same level as somebody like Matt Taven. Like
I am excited though to see this match like on the televised version. I haven't gotten to watch the whole televised version back yet because I want to see the differences and everything, but I want to see how this came off live on TV as opposed to being there live in the show. I'm probably not I'm probably a minority of people who are really this focused on everything else going on outside of the event, but I was just like, this shit is going so long. Like, my day is going so long. And this match now that I really don't, I care, but because it's the first championship match, and I like Adam Page, but I know he's not going to win, so I don't care. They've done nothing to make me care because there wasn't even that much of a story in the match. That's why I want to watch it back, because maybe there's a story that I missed that, they really tell, but... I don't know. They close out the show with that. If you watched any of the stuff online, you've seen Jericho's promo, which we'll finish this show with here in a moment. But they also had Pac confront Adam Page. They've sort of started to build a lot of stuff coming out of this pay-per-view, and they did a good job with the pay-per-view. I just think that it definitely didn't hold up to what Double or Nothing was, where every match was like a killer match, and by the end of the show, you weren't waiting on something to happen. But overall, that really wraps up everything AEW related, at least as far as news and All Out goes. We are going to wrap up the fantasy contests that we started months ago. If you checked the scores, they were updated just a couple weeks ago. We're going to have to update them for All Out, and then we will have the winners. I have a couple of the merch things available right here. We've got T-shirts, we've got Funko Pops, we've got hats, we got all kinds of shit from the Starrcast event show. I also do want to mention that I got a cool little what's it called? It's like a pro wrestling crate box from a company out there at the Starrcast meet and greets. I plan on doing like a live, or not a live, but a recorded opening unboxing of that, and maybe partnering up with them and promoting a lot of the other just vendors that were there at Starrcast, because that was a really cool part of Starrcast as well. And that's why I want to be able to give away some of this merchandise. I plan on giving away a couple of the signed pictures that I got and stuff like that as well, just to share that Starrcast experience with people who weren't able to go there, because literally I didn't understand how cool and how fun it can be until you actually go there and get to experience all of it there live. So that was a cool, awesome moment. Otherwise, Phil, you want to plug your social media? If you're watching on the video version, you can see Phil's social media right above his beautiful smiling face. But if you're listening, Phil, go ahead and plug it.
Twitter is my name, Philip Domino, 2 L's, Dimino. If you want to see me tweet once every few months.
You got to build that following, brother.
Yeah.
And as always, you can follow the podcast at All Elite Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. You can also check us out on alleliteeverything.com, where we plan on updating much more often now going forward. Otherwise, thank you guys. You can follow me at All Elite Andy. Thank you, Phil, for filling in for AJ, and hopefully we can get some more of both of you in the future. But who knows, with your schedule, his schedule, our schedule, they don't always line up. But luckily, the stars were able to align this week.
Hell yeah, brother.
But thank you everybody for tuning in, and let's just close out with that Jericho promo.
Isn't it funny how whenever somebody wins a world championship, there's always a standing ovation, champagne, roses, flowers, yet I got a whole backstage area filled with mutes. Nobody can believe that Chris Jericho is the first AEW champion. Pure silence. There's no thank you for Chris Jericho. There's no round of applause for Chris Jericho, but that's okay, because I got my own thank you, because I'm the first AEW champion. Oh, you see that, Bucks? Chris Jericho, the first champ. How apropos, isn't it? Great match, Chris. Yeah, thanks. That's all you're going to say?